I am going to cut right to the chase with today's podcast because I have a big announcement to make. For the first time ever, I am going to be offering a course. This is a big thing for me and I feel really excited about it. The course is going to be called How to Know What You Want, and it's going to be sharing every single thing I know about how to know what you want. What are the skills that are needed? What are the practices that help you get there? How can you get your brain and body in the right position for that? And how do you troubleshoot all the ways that you get in your own way on the path to knowing what you truly want? It's going to be done in a really step-by-step way. So from the very first session, you will have practical takeaways that will help you assess what you want. And in the very first 30 days, I feel confident that you will have new insights and a much stronger perspective on what you want, even about really tricky or gnarly issues. If you have been around these parts for a while, you know that figuring out what you want is one of my top beats. This podcast, my newsletter, and certainly with my clients, I am thinking about it, talking about it, working with it a lot. And I have realized over time that while my one-on-one coaching will always be incredibly bespoke and customized, I am also with each of my clients following processes and teaching skills that I repeat and riff on again and again. So creating this course has been a really interesting opportunity actually to kind of synthesize really a decade of how I have learned to work with my one-on-one clients into a repeatable process that I can teach anyone who has the desire to learn. And I'm so fired up in my body when I say that. So this feels like a really special thing if I'm being honest, and like it has the potential to help just a lot of people. Okay, so today I wanted to kind of person to person be in your ear as I share more about this course. So today I want to do a couple of things. First, I wanted to just share a quick overview of what this course is. Second, I wanted to talk more about who this course is for so you can get a better sense of whether or not you're in that group. Third, I want to talk in a bit more detail about what I'll be covering in the course because I think that's really fun and interesting. I think you'll like it too. And then fourth, I wanted to finish out with just some more logistics. So when does this course take place? How long is it? What's the investment? How do you sign up? There is actually a very specific sign up window, so I want to make sure you get that information too. So with all that said, let's go. Okay, so I wanted to kick off, as I said, with just a bit more of an overview of what this course is about, what the point of it is. So obviously, the name of the course kind of gives it all away. It's called How to Know What You Want, and that is for a reason. Because it's a course about teaching every single thing I know about how to know what you want. Every insight, every tool, every skill, every practice. I've synthesized everything I know into 5 repeatable, learnable steps, which I want to teach you in this course, and which I will also be doing this time only, live demos and coaching on. I know that many people who have trouble making decisions about their work, their relationships, their life, honestly, they're usually busy. So I've designed this course very intentionally to be really bite-sized. At the top of each teaching call, there's going to be about 30 minutes of teaching. And within that, there'll be several smaller tools or practices that you can really try right away. And in my experience, even just one good insight that lands with you, which you honestly might learn in 5 to 10 minutes together, often in my experience, that can just change everything. This course will at some point in the future be offered again, but this will be the only time that I will be doing it 100% live. So it's the only time that you're going to get this many opportunities for coaching from me on your specific issue, or to even just come up and have me teach you any of the concepts live on any particular skill. Like if you don't get it, you can just ask and I will address the very specific reason why you are struggling. So if this is something you're interested in, I would definitely highly recommend joining this time so you can get my insights and my coaching on your very particular issue. You know, your life is a series of decisions, big and small. And if your life feels off because you're on the wrong track or just because you're feeling overly tired or overly anxious, and I'm going to say some more about that in a minute, in my experience, it's probably true that you're not yet making decisions in a way that works best for you. If that's true for you, then this course is for you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more now about who this course is for, so you can see whether or not it's for you. I think there's really 3 categories of people that would benefit from this course. The first, the most obvious category is people who are trying to figure out something big about their lives. Maybe it is something big about their career. Like, should they quit their job? Should they change careers? If so, what should they change to? Should they start a business? If so, what business should they start? Maybe they have been out of work for some time to focus on family or for some other reason, and they're wondering when or if or to what they should go back. So it could be a big career thing. It might also be a big relationship thing. Should they get married? Should they get divorced? Should they shift their friendships? Should they have a kid? Should they have a third kid? Should they have a kid alone? But honestly, it could also be about anything big. Like, should they move to London or Chicago? Should they go on sabbatical or go back to school? Should they sell their house or buy a new one? And sometimes, I'll say even frequently, it's many of those decisions all at once. So that is the first category of people who would benefit from this course. But it's also really important to say that that's not the only category of people who would benefit from this course and from my work more generally. The second category of people who would benefit is people who don't actually want to change any of the big pieces of their lives. They like their partner, they like their career, they like their city, but they find themselves spending too much time and energy and brain space and emotional energy on those quote unquote smaller decisions. And I'll give a client example here. I had a client who was spending a lot of time and energy thinking, I want to turn down a specific volunteer opportunity, but is it okay to do that? And if I do know that I want to turn it down, is it okay to email them in advance before they even ask me? Or is that rude or presumptuous? And as I spoke to her, I could sense that even though this decision might be quote unquote small, like it wasn't, should I get divorced or should I move to San Francisco? It was occupying a lot of her day and her week. It was taking up a huge amount of space for her. So learning a methodology to clean all of that up, to know what she wanted, to know what was right for her in a grounded way so she could feel calm and confident in that rightness, and then eventually take action. All of that is a game changer. Because there's a funny thing about these small decisions, right? These small decisions might be, should I say yes or no to this social event? Should I bring up this thing to my friend that bugged me or let it go? Should I prioritize career growth in this season or should I prioritize rest? On some level, what we're doing for much of our day is just making one small decision after another. And if you are somebody who doubts yourself in those small decisions, who overanalyzes or consults the crowd or who feels anxious or blown around, then how you are moving through your day is going to feel tiring and stressful. Because again, your whole day is just small decisions. So another way of saying this, of course, would be to say that if I have a client who is chronically tired or just stressed a lot, what often happens to be true is that they do not have a grounded and strong connection to their own rightness. And they don't have a repeatable methodology for finding rightness. So that is what we're going to do together in one-on-one. So what I want to teach you in this course is this methodology, this 5-step methodology that I previously only could discuss with my clients one-on-one to help you cultivate rightness. Because small decisions aren't small, they're your whole day. And if the quality of your days is anxious or stressed or just tired, then again, there's probably an opportunity to build some skills at finding rightness, which is exactly what we're gonna talk about in this course. So that's the second category of folks who would benefit from this course. And then there's also a third category of people who would benefit from this course, and that is people who have a kind of vague sense that something is off, but it's not exactly clear to them what's off. What do they even change? They don't know what the decision to make even is. Do they start by changing their hobbies? Do they start by changing their weekends? Do they start by changing their career or their clothes? And it might seem like this category is really different from the first two, but the funny thing is, in my now decade plus of coaching experience, the same underlying issues are still there with different emphases. Those same people need to increase their connection to rightness, to figuring out what they want, to even begin to figure out what those categories are that need to change. Connecting to what they want helps us figure out what categories. So all those people with big decisions, with small decisions, or who don't even know what the decisions are, they just have this vague sense that something's off, all of those people would benefit from this course, which, as I said, is called How to Know What You Want. So with all that in mind, I wanted to spend a few moments talking in more specific terms about what we will cover together, if you join, in How to Know What You Want. First thing we're going to cover together is just how to understand your internal decision-making mechanism. Many of us have no idea how our internal, quote unquote, navigational system, that's what I call it, actually works, because it's very different from how we might get answers from Google Maps or ChatGPT. I have covered this topic in bits and pieces in my podcast and newsletter. I even put together a podcast some time ago called Your Compass Instruction Manual, but I have never actually shared in one place and just in general everything that I will be sharing in this section of the course. I was making my notes for this recently and I was like, oh my gosh, I just kept adding and adding to it. There's a lot to say here and I think you would really benefit from it. So that's the first thing we're going to cover. The second thing we're going to cover is how to hear your own decision-making voice and not others or society's. And this is in some ways the heart of the course. And it's a skill that often really profoundly changes my clients' experiences in the world. In my experience, no matter how disconnected you currently feel from what you want, there is already a volume at which you can hear what you want. When your compass is absolutely screaming at you, whether that's screaming a yes or a no, for some people, one is easier than the other, you can hear it. And what I'm going to do is teach you a repeatable methodology to hear that same signal from your internal compass when it's at a whisper. I'm going to teach you the cues and the skills to pick it up in really subtle ways and then give you practices and assignments, small, doable, bite-sized ones that are kind of like going to the gym. So your connection, your strength of that gets stronger. So that's the second thing we're going to cover together. The third thing we're going to cover together is just generating directions, because honestly, 90% of people who tell me that they quote unquote have no idea about what they want, they actually do. So I want to show you all the moves that I make as a coach, the questions that I ask, the exercises that I offer to help clients generate solid possibilities to choose from. And then the fourth thing that we'll cover together is something I am calling fear reduction. Because I think we all know this. One of the biggest roadblocks to knowing what you want is that your brain is going to freak out. It's going to tell you it'll never work, you're not good enough, people will judge you, and just a million more things that you haven't even thought of yet. So I want to show you how I overcome your brain's objections one by one so you can make a decision from a place of calm, grounded wisdom and not panic. I will say that this topic often ends up being one of my clients' favorite ones to do in coaching because it just feels so good to not have your brain be so noisy with all of this fear. So that's the fourth thing that we'll cover together. And then fifth, we will cover actually filtering those directions to make a decision. So I'm going to share more than 8 techniques for how to filter your choices to make a decision, including one that is honestly kind of wacky, but most people end up loving. And I'm going to be talking more about when you actually need time to marinate on a decision versus when you're just avoiding making a decision, how to tell the difference. And also, if it does turn out you need time to marinate on a decision, I'm going to share my best tips about how to make sure that you're marinating productively and not just using that time to procrastinate a decision, because that happens too. And as a bonus, we're also going to be talking throughout and at some very specific moments about energy. Energy and knowing what you want are very tightly intertwined. And that's because many, what do I want problems are actually just energy problems in disguise. Because if you've been around these parts for a while, you know that if you don't have enough energy, your internal decision-making system just won't work. It'll just keep telling you over and over, I'm tired. So we don't want that to be your problem. So I'm going to share my best techniques and insights and practices to make sure that you do have the fuel you need to even assess what you want. Okay, so that speaks to what we'll cover. Now, finally, I wanted to talk more about logistics. Gotta do some logistics. So when will the course be? The course is going to be starting in January, but I'm doing signups from November 10 to 21st. So November 10 to 21st, remember that. That's just under 2 weeks in November. And I'm doing that very consciously because I want you to make a decision, hopefully to sign up, but make a decision and then just sit back and relax and enjoy the holidays, knowing that you don't have to think about it and we're going to be working together in the new year. So if you do want to join the course, you just need to keep your head up and aware because you don't want to miss that sign up between, again, November 10 and 21st. A bunch more information about the course is already online if you want to read it. It's all at katieseaver.com/course. That's katieseaver.com/course. It's all there if you want to check it out. You can't sign up yet, but you can read all the background info about, who it's for, what we'll cover, the investment, a ton of FAQs, so a bunch of questions and answers, all of that on the website. I will also be emailing my newsletter community more about this course over the next couple of weeks, and I will also be emailing when the course is open for enrollment. So if you're not yet on my email newsletter list, I would highly recommend going on there, checking that out. And in terms of structure, the course will be 8 weeks long. We will meet for 1-hour calls each week. I will be teaching on most of the calls. I'll be introducing my models and frameworks, plus very doable homework assignments to help you integrate what you're learning and practice new skills. I am very carefully structuring the calls so that even if you're busy, there will be just a small nugget in there that has the potential to kind of change everything for you. That's been my personal experience of how coaching can work. I'm structuring the flow of the course so that by session 4, so about a month in, you will already have a very significant shift in perspective and new insights on whatever decision you need to make. I will be doing live demos in the course, I want to mention, with participants. So if you're practicing a given skill and it doesn't make sense or it doesn't work for you, you can raise your hand, come on live, we'll troubleshoot together. I will also be doing live coaching, including 3 calls that are 100% only live coaching. So if you want to get coached by me, you will get coached by me. You can do that coaching live, or I will also open it up so you can submit questions if that's better for your schedule. If you are unable to make a call or you just don't feel like it, like that's not your vibe, there will be video recordings of every call on the course portal, or we'll also have a private podcast feed. So you can take everything with you. You can listen or re-listen to all of our calls in the car or while you're doing dishes or taking a walk. The private course portal is also going to have, worksheets and extra resources, and you'll have lifetime access to all of this. So you can consume it now, consume it later, do whatever works best for you. The investment for the course is $990. To be totally honest, is less than 1/10 of the cost of anything else I offer. So it's honestly a very wildly affordable way to work with me. And the investment will also be going up the next time I offer this course. So that, in addition to the fact that I do not expect to do this course 100% live again, I think is just a very strong reason to say, if you are wanting to sign up eventually, I would really strongly recommend doing it now. So I'm going to, in the podcast and in my newsletter, be sharing, as I said, more about the course in the next couple of weeks. But if you have any questions that aren't answered in some way, feel free to shoot me an email. My email is katie@katieseaver.com. I am a real person, not an AI that creates podcasts. And I will answer your question personally. And I will be honest with you about whether or not what I'm creating can help you and my honest perspective on that. So team, as I'm closing out today, I just want to say that I hope you will strongly consider joining me in this course. As I feel into it, I just feel honestly really lit up by what I'm putting together. I have truly never put all of these insights in one place like this, in a step-by-step curriculum like this, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. So many of us are feeling like we are stuck in a decision, big or small, and like we don't feel that calm and clear and confident knowing that we would want. And I want you to have that calm, confident connection to your rightness. I want you to be able to know in your gut, this is the decision that's right for me. And I would love the chance to teach you live and to coach you live, or for you to just join this community, even if you're a person who doesn't really like to raise their hand in a group, just to get the vibes of a live course, I think are really engaging. So as I said, I'll be sharing a bit more about this course on this podcast, but I also recommend getting on my email newsletter list. If you aren't there already, that's where I'll be sharing the most information and the most useful information. There will be a link in the show notes to sign up for that, where you can check that out if you are not yet on that list. As I said, much more info about this is already up at katieseaver.com/course, so you can read more about that there if you like. I really hope we get a chance to work together. And as always, I'm rooting for you. You've got this.